What is up, DCS crew? It seems like forever and a day since I posted an update on my YouTube, and there was good reason. It's not that I've been on hiatus because, I can't deal and social anxiety disorder, all that fun stuff. The truth is, I bought a house. And yeah, if that was any reason to be able to go ahead and put things on hold because I had a couple of other projects going on, I mean, if that's not a good reason, I don't know what is. But I am back, and there are a few things that I just wanted to go ahead and show you. Particularly today is about knife that is from Kizer, and if you haven't noticed, a lot of the knives that are on my channel are from Kizer because of the fact that I got an opportunity to work with them firsthand, and test out some of their models, and they won me over. And that's been one of the companies that I gotta say that, almost all of the knives that I've touched from that company and reviewed and carried and EDC'd, they've all been exceptional. And this is no different. So let me go ahead and show you what it is that today's review is gonna be. Now it's in this box, so there's the sleeve, and then there's, the lions, and then you take it out and it's got the whole, passion, pride, performance little pamphlet with the, warranty, and has a cleaning cloth in it. And, it's going to take a while. Just go ahead and roll the intro, and I'll go ahead and have this ready for you once it comes back. All right. I'll see you in a few. So I finally got it out of the box, and I figured I'd just go ahead and show you what it is. It is the Kizer Sheepdog. This is the mini version with titanium scales. In particular, this is the one that is not anodized blue, or I think they make one in kind of like a gold anodized color as well. This particular one, although you'll see the maker's mark, you'll have Kizer on there. It'll state that it's, the S35vn. And on this side, it'll show the Sheepdog knives insignia, which is the true maker's mark. This is the designer for this particular knife. It'll show a C01C. Now, C01C is actually not the model from Kizer of this knife. That's just the designation to go towards Sheepdog Knives, which is actually a company that was started by Chris Conaway. Okay, so this particular one, if you look at Kizer's catalog and you're looking for just a plain, the standard gray titanium handle with the S35vn Steel from, it's CPM, Crucible Powdered Metallurgy, that's the elongated version, you're gonna find that this is model KI3488A1, and that's where it has it right there, okay? So actually, let me get this out of the way, and we can go ahead and get started with a couple of important things. Now, let me just go ahead and put that right there so you can go ahead and see it. As far as the blade itself, we're looking at a blade length of 2.63 inches, if I'm not mistaken, an overall length of 5.75, a little bit more than 5 3/4. And as far as the handle length, it's kind of deceptive because it says it's a little bit more than 3 1/8 inches, but as you notice, I can get almost all four, I can get 3 full fingers on here and almost the 4th kind of dangling at the bottom. And the truth is that kind of reminds me of my Glock 43, which I have right here. And I'm actually showing it off because obviously it's Glocktober month. And yeah, so I'm showcasing my Glocks. And so I got the 2 fingers here. I got my 3rd, which is technically my trigger finger, and then the other one just kind of dangles here. So that's what it kind of reminds me of. And I'll go into this in another video if you're interested in checking out my Glock 43. It's been customized, and there's a couple things worth checking out. But yeah, back to the knife. So I'm able to get 3 fingers and then 1 comfortably on the bottom. You would think that this wouldn't give you a lot of control, but the truth is this actually rests on the bottom and allows me to go ahead and use this in a manner which is pretty fitting for the shape and style of the knife, okay? So first impressions, one thing you want to be able to go ahead and say right off the back is like, wow, this blade is actually pretty wide. And you're right. For being the size it is, it's extremely deceptive because you're like, okay, it's a bit of a small knife, but the blade itself, the usability of this blade is extremely well designed. And even little things like having this little notch here so you can kind of have a little bit more purchase right here while you're making very precise cuts on this sheep's foot style blade. It's just, there's a lot of stuff that's going on with this particular knife, and I wanted to go ahead and showcase it amongst a few other knives, you know, some bigger, some smaller, but some that are regulars in the EDC community, so you can see how the Mini actually compares to some other knives out there. So we'll go ahead and start with this is one of the beginners, the knives that when people are really serious into EDC end up getting. It's a nice beginner's knife, and that is the Ontario Knife Company Rat 1. Okay, let me line up the pivots there a little bit. Okay, and as you can see, it's pretty big compared to the the Mini Sheepdog. Okay, and over here we have the Buck Marksman. This is a special edition from SK Blades. This is the Gray Ghost edition, also with Boss heat treated S35vn Steel, Gray G10. Fantastic blade. Also pretty large, kind of about the same size as the, just maybe a hair smaller than the Ontario Rat 1. All right, I love this little lock here in the back. We have the Benchmade Casbah. This is one of those, automatics that don't get a lot of love from Benchmade because they're not really known as being, an automatic kind of company. And, given with what's been going on recently in the news and about destroying, their firearms, using their steel cutters to be able to destroy firearms, they came under a lot of flack for that. But I still support the company for a variety of reasons. There is more to that story, and in any case, this is one of my beater blades. I mean, I've used the hell out of this guy, S30V Steel, and as you can see, I mean, it's kind of it's not as big as the Ontario Rat 1, but it's clearly larger than the Mini Sheepdog. All right, and I'm gonna go ahead and bring 2 more out here. One of them is a fantastic blade, and if you haven't seen the video on this one already, I encourage you to check it out. This is the Giant Mouse Ace Biblio in green micarta handles and M390 steel. A stand-up knife, great action. And I mean, I can't speak highly enough of Giant Mouse and this particular knife. If you haven't seen that video, or a video on it, I'll probably post something, a little something up here so you can go ahead and check it out. Yeah, great freaking setup. Okay, and one more here. Let's see. Oh yeah, I'll bring this one out. Shout out from Jay, the knife beater, that went ahead and sent this over to me. This is the SOG Terminus XR. See if I can. I'll put this in the middle actually. There we go. Line up the pivots. Right here. This is the SOG Terminus XR. This is a really awesome take from SOG on the Benchmade Axis lock, and it sports BDZ1 steel, deep carry clip, carbon fiber handles, and I mean, check out this action. I'm just gonna, yeah. That is worth a video coming up. Huge thanks to Jay, the knife beater, for going ahead and sending this over for me to check out. And you're gonna see that one soon. But in the case of the Mini Sheepdog, okay, those are some other knives that are very commonly carried, at least by me, and some other people that I know in the EDC community, to go ahead and gauge the size on this guy. Now, I keep calling it the Mini because there are actually 3 versions that are out now. There's this model, which is the smallest version. This is the 2.63 inch blade. There's the standard model, which is, slightly bigger. And then there's the XL model, which is quite big. I mean, it's basically like a pocket cleaver. And I mean, you know, that's not to say that this isn't either. You know, I think that this would be a great knife to be given as a novelty to, you know, a budding chef, or, you know, somebody that's really into this style of blade. But yeah, this is a pretty unique knife. Now, one thing I do want to say about this particular knife is, you would think, with it being as wide of a blade that it is, and as wide as it is, you know, when you compare it to some of these other knives, and I'm going to go ahead and compare it to the Terminus XR, and I'm also going to go ahead and compare it to the Ontario Rat 1. As you can see, it's clearly a little bit thicker, if not in just the handles and blade. There's also the flipper tab that you have to worry about as well. You'd think that this takes up a lot of real estate in your pocket, and that is not entirely untrue. But I mean, in comparison to the standard size and the XL, this is actually relatively tame when it's in your pocket. And I'm actually kind of surprised because the standard clip, it's not a deep carry clip by any means, as you can see. Okay, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to take out my handy dandy envelope here, and I'm going to compare it to some other knives so you can see just how it carries. Okay, this is just a standard 3-hole pocket clip, not a deep carry. This is a deep carry clip, and this is just the clip that comes standard with the Sheepdog. Okay, now bear with me. I'm gonna see if I can get this all in one try. All right, so there's one. There's the Sheepdog, and there's the Ontario Rat 1. Okay. So here's all three, so you can see exactly how they sit in the pocket. Okay, this is the SOG Terminus, this is the Kizer Sheepdog, and then this right here, you can see a little bit better there. All right, that's the Ontario Rat 1, and as you can see, I mean, there's not a lot that hangs out of the pocket. It's actually pretty good. I mean, this is probably one of the best non-deep carry pocket clips that I have actually ever seen on a knife. And it's not surprising that it's from Kizer, to be honest, because Kizer comes out with some really good quality stuff. And I really don't say that because of the fact that I review a lot of their stuff. I review a lot of their stuff because they have quite high quality stuff. So it's I know it sounds like a little bit of circular reasoning, but you gotta bear with me, all right? Okay, so currently, as of this moment, in the titanium version, you have 3 models. You have the gray titanium, which is this one here. It has that blue pivot collar, really, really nice. And ironically, it's only on one side, by the way. You have the gray titanium, you have the gold anodized titanium, and then you have the blue anodized titanium. They are all of the same dimensions. They are all going to weigh the same. I believe this is just over 3 1/4 ounces. So it is relatively light, and I know a lot of that is because of the fact that it's titanium. Frame lock is fantastic. The lockup is great. This actually came nicely centered. The action is fantastic. And as you can see here, the lockup is pretty sturdy. It has that titanium lock bar insert. And just, I mean, the action on this, especially for it being something so small, because of the blade being chunky like it is, I mean, look at that. That is really, really good quality action right there from Kizer. I've never really known them to do anything but that, but it's, you know, it's worth noting. Okay, so let's talk about a few things that I like about it, a few things that I could request that they work on, and then my overall thoughts. Okay, so things that I like. I like the little nuances and the little attention to detail that they put into the mini version of this knife. I've always liked this particular knife, and I thought that this was a really cool concept when they showed them off, I think officially in Blade 2018. They had the G10 versions, and I was like, man, I gotta get my hands on one, and for some reason, for whatever reason, I never did. And the reason why is because, you know, like some people, it's kind of like when a movie comes out, you're like, wow, there's a lot of hype behind it. You know what? I'm gonna give it time. I'm gonna see what people think, and then, you know, maybe I'll go ahead and I'll spend my money and get it afterwards. And I noticed that a lot of people were getting the G10 versions, which has 154 cm steel. Okay. And they would, you know, post on Instagram about it, they'd post on YouTube about it, and then they'd get rid of it. And I'm like, come on, man, just, you know, stick with it for a little while. Let me know how it is. Let me know how it performs. And then they came out with, you know, some exclusives. I know KnifeJoy has the camouflage, the digital camouflage version in G10, which is really cool, by the way. Be sure to go ahead and check out KnifeJoy for some of the stuff that they offer. There are a lot of exclusives, including Kizer's, and great pricing, by the way. But you know, aside from that, they came out with the titanium version, and I'm like, okay, now they got the titanium scales. They got upgraded, you know, CPM S35vn Steel. It's imported from here in the US. And if you're wondering what CPM is, I kind of alluded to it at the beginning of the video. It's crucible powdered metallurgy. It's a specific process that they use to go ahead and temper and treat this steel so that it performs at optimal. It basically has, you know, as optimal performance as the heat treat will allow it to have. And if I'm not mistaken, this is typically heat treated between 59 and 61. I believe, which is the HRC on this guy. I don't know if they've tested them, but I'm pretty sure that that's how it is. So, good things about this knife. I mean, you look at the titanium, and there's these little nuances, you know, these little design elements, like the cutouts, the blue pivot, you know, the pivot collar, you know, just that smooth gray titanium, and you can also get it in a couple of other colors. You know, the little the sheepdog knives, Maker's Mark. I mean, just even little things like, you know, the sharpening tool right here, and just the little notch that it has right here, so that when you know, you hold it close in your hand, you can choke up, and you can, you know, put your finger here and get a little bit of pressure and really make those precision cuts whenever you're using it for EDC tasks, or even, you know, tasks in the kitchen. Because like I said, this looks like a little mini butcher knife, and it wouldn't surprise me if people used it to go ahead and, you know, use it for a lot of chopping tasks. So this is something that I think it's I don't want to say it's borderline EDC / novelty item for like cooking. And I thought it was pretty cool. And again, this is just my opinion on it. You know, you can take that with a grain of salt, but I will assume that the 600-ish subscribers right now are taking it a little seriously when I talk about these knives. So I appreciate you even considering, you know, listening to me. Okay, now on to the bad. I wouldn't really call it bad. I would really just call it things that I'd prefer not to have in the knife. I like the fact that it has the, you know, the upgraded, you know, CPM S35vn Steel, and the fact that it has a stonewash finish. But I'm not a big fan of titanium, and the reason why is titanium, number one, it fits, it's pretty smooth in the pocket to go ahead and take out and put back in, and it has a nice sturdy pocket clip, so there's really no reason for it to not have at least something grippy on the surface to kind of keep that retention going. And the problem with titanium is when it rubs against something abrasive, you get the snail trails, and it takes the allure away from a nice clean looking knife like this, you know. And it's just, I don't know, I've never really been a big fan of titanium. If I could get it in G10, then I will. If I could get it with G10 with the S35vn scales, I'd be in heaven. And I will get back to that in a second. So yeah, you know, things to consider. There's that. And then for lefties, this particular version, I may be mistaken, but I don't believe there's a left-handed version of the Mini. I know that there's a left-handed version. If I'm not going crazy, I'm pretty sure I saw a left-handed version for sale, but these knives are not tapped for both left and right hand carry. Okay, and I say they make a left-handed version because it's a frame lock, so then they switch the frame lock to the other side, and obviously they have the show scale on the different side, of course. And yeah, so something to consider. You know, it's not ambidextrous right out of the back of the box. You do have to go ahead and find a lefty version. I'm pretty sure, you know, one of the 3 models, the XL, the regular, or the Mini, has that. And let me see here. Well, I mean, aside from that, in all honesty, there's really not much more I can say other than the fact that, I mean, if it were me, I would have put some jimping, you know, over here. I mean, you have this flat part of the spine here that is nice and rounded, but there's, you know, there could have been a little bit of jimping there, you know, to hold the fingers in place. I mean, being that you're only going to have 3 fingers here, your thumb it would be nice for your thumb to be able to have something grippy to be able to go ahead and secure it here while it's being used. I mean, like I said, it's completely smooth here, and by the way, the edges are rounded ever so nicely. But that is a bit of an issue because when you're handling this knife, this is a pretty sharp blade, and the blade is pretty thin behind the edge. It's 0.12, I believe, behind the edge. And yeah, so it's something to consider. Okay, I wanted to see something like you know, some jimping here in the back or some jimping here to be able to go ahead and, you know, it doesn't have to be very coarse jimping, but just something enough to be able to get the meat of my hand inside there. Okay, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm not really a big fan of, you know, stuff like lanyard holes and stuff like that. You know, you get them in a lot of knives, and yeah, they're cool, whatever, it is what it is. I mean, you know, yeah, I have a lanyard on this guy. Well, the truth is, I'm not really a big lanyard fan, and I'm glad that it doesn't have a lanyard hole. But, you know, there are people who like lanyard holes, so yeah, that's something to consider. It doesn't have a lanyard hole. And from the way that the standoffs are here in the back, the blade is way too close to them to be able to go ahead and, you know, just kind of loop a lanyard between them. Okay, so something to consider. Figured I'd tell you. Oh yeah, I didn't realize this, and this is one thing I did want to mention, that most of the Kizer models that you see, they used to have that kind of swirly kind of pivot pin, and I'm sorry, that pivot screw, and this one does not. As you can see, it's nice and flush on both sides. Oh, not flush, but nice and smooth. And it has this nice little blue pivot collar on there that I think really pops, especially when you have just the standard version of the knife. I thought it was pretty cool, so it's worth mentioning. Okay, now my thoughts. Well, like I said before, you know, the S35vn model is great. I wish that they could have come out with a G10 model specifically from Kizer, marketed, you know, kind of like an in-betweener from the Vanguard version, which is the G10 and 154cm, and then this version, which is the titanium and the S35vn Steel for crucible powdered metallurgy. Now, it took a company to step in. I want to say it was ADC Gearhouse or Way of Knife MI. And you can actually go ahead and check out their website. They actually have a they've done 2 things. They've actually ordered a specific model that was tailored for their site, and it's an exclusive. It is the Jade G10 scale S35vn model of this knife. And aside from that, they are doing knife modding services. So they will acid stonewash your knife. They will dye the Jade G10 in a variety of colors, and they will go ahead and they will anodize the aluminum, the titanium pocket clip. They'll, you know, use a bunch of different methods, and I mean, they'll really make it your own. I thought that was a really cool setup. And it's the best of both worlds. I mean, for people like me that like and prefer, you know, micarta or G10 as opposed to titanium, because I mean, you know, as far as I know, you know, titanium for me, it's great, but I kind of feel like, you know, knives as a worker, you know, using knives as a worker's knife, I think, you know, G10 and micarta works best for someone like me. I think that they really hit it out of the park with that one. And this is a great knife if you are into titanium and you want something that's unique, something that's gonna kind of get people's attention when you take this out and you open it and you use it. This really does does garner, some views. I mean, I carried it one day at the office, and when I took it out to go ahead and open up something, somebody looked at me with this eye and they're like, what in the hell is that? What the hell is that, Carlos? And I had to explain what it was and, who it was from and stuff like that, and explain a little bit about Kizer, which was pretty cool because if I'm not mistaken, they picked one up. So yeah, I guess that's +1 for this guy on behalf of Kizer. You see, DCS really does make a difference, gentlemen and ladies. So, final thoughts. I like it, and you'll probably see the EDC Gearhouse version on the channel soon, if it's still available. When I get rid of this knife, if I get rid of this knife, I am gonna go ahead and pick it up because I would really like to carry the knife, but I'm not a fan of the titanium. You may have already noticed that with my Kizer knives, if I have the titanium version and I have the G10 version, I'm typically going to go ahead and side with the G10 version. I did that with the Laconico, the Gemini production model that Kizer had. Both great knives, and this is a great knife, but I would prefer for it to have the G10. And it's not to say that this particular knife in the format that it is not a good performer, because it is. It's an excellent performer. It came nice and sharp out of the box, and this action is retarded good. Like, really, really good, okay? Yeah, I can't say that enough. I mean, look this. Okay, so you have just the standard flick, and by the way, the flipper tab is extremely easy to be able to go ahead and work with. And this action, I mean, look, it's on bearings, okay? So you gotta see, I'm gonna go ahead and disengage the lock, bring it down just a little bit, and then I'm gonna hold it right here. Oh yeah, by the way, wait, there we go. Release the 10 ball, and it literally falls shut. Okay, I'm gonna try it one more time so you can see. Oh, that is nuts. Wow. Okay, so there you have it. That is the Kizer Mini Sheepdog, the titanium model. From Kizer. That's the C01C line of knives from Chris Conaway's Sheepdog Knives, designed and produced for mass production through Kizer. And if you want to go ahead and check this one out, this is the natural titanium handle, S35vn blade, model number KI3488A1. Excuse me. That's all, folks, for today, and yeah, I hope you like what you saw. Be sure to go ahead and check out Knife Joy if you're interested in checking out these knives, as well as some other ones that they have. They have a lot of really cool custom designs, and they have a special going on as of the date of this video, where if I believe you buy the regular size version, you get the mini for free. That's a smoking deal right there, man, let me tell you. So yeah, go ahead and check them out. Feel free to go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you liked what you saw. Hit the like button if you felt that, this was worth it to go ahead and check this out, and I gave you some information that was pertinent to your purchase. And remember, whether you carry this or one of your other knives, like this guy right here, the Buck Marksman, Gray Ghost, great knife. Just remember, if you EDC, think of DCS. Thank you so much for checking out the video, and I hope to see you again next time. In the meantime, take it easy.